Movie starts 8 days before Halloween. Here we can see a kid named Peter who goes to school. At the school, he doesn't have many friends. Because some kids bully him, he likes to spend time with himself. He is usually lost in his thoughts. He goes to home and plays alone. He doesn't have any friend, and he doesn't even talk a lot. Now we can his parents named Carol and Mark. They portray themselves as overprotective parents and doesn't let their child go anywhere. In fact, they don't even allow him to make friends. And in the neighborhood, they don't mingle much. One night, Peter was sleeping in his room, and he hears knocking sound from his room's wall. There was some noise outside his house as well, so he gets terrified and goes to his parents and wakes them up. Now Carl brings him back to his room and checks the wall, but she doesn't hear any noise. From the wall now, she calms her son and tells him it's all his imagination. He should go back to sleep. Next day he goes to school in the class. There is a substitute teacher named Miss Devine. She feels emotional with Peter by looking at his terrified behavior and connects with him. Later that night, Peter was having dinner with his parents. He asks them for permission to participate in the Halloween for tricks or treat, as his friends are also going there. Carol refuses to give him the permission, and his father now tells about an incident. That few years ago, before Peter was born, a neighborhood kid also went for Halloween trick or treat. But that night she never went back home and disappeared. Since that incident, they are really scared. They can't take risk, and that's why you are not allowed to go. Listening that Peter goes to sleep now. With dull mood now, we can see an entity pushing the wall from the other side. As soon as Peter hears a girl calling his name, he screams now. Mark comes to his room and checks the walls, but everything felt normal. There was no noise of any kind now. He calms down Peter and makes him sleep. Next day, his father adds rat poison on the border of his room, stating that it will fix all the noise issues. As they are probably rats, you don't need to be scared. Now, scene shifts to Peter drawing in school, and he drawing his rooms, and he was asking for help. Miss Devine saw that and gets alerted about Peter. She takes that drawing to Peter's home and asks Peter's mother if everything's fine or not. Carol doesn't like this confrontation, and she behaves rudely and says that Peter always imagined things and draws them, so you don't bother coming here, and asks her to leave. Now Carol goes to Peter furiously and confronts him about this drawing here. Then explains, I am not the one asking for help, rather it's the voice in my room. Now Carol shows her anger on this talk and goes away. Last night, Peter was in his room and he heard that girl's voice again. He confronts her saying, you are just my imagination. Then she tells her, no, I am real and I just want to be your friend. And if he wants her to go away, she will. Peter had no friend and she tells her name as Sarah. Now next day, we can see him decorating pumpkin for Halloween along with his classmates. Peter also makes a good decoration and he was happy about it, but his classmate Brian breaks in pumpkin to make him upset. Now Peter becomes really sad. Later that night, Peter was crying in his room and he hears her voice consoling him, and she pumps him up for taking revenge. Next day, Peter pushes Brian from stairs that breaks his leg, but Brian had already apologized and gave him his pumpkin dot now because of this aggressive behavior of Peter. Mark and Carol were very upset. They locked the Peter in the basement and tells him that you are grounded. Peter becomes very sad now. We can see him looking at a pit in the basement where he can see a horrible teddy bear. Now scene shifts to Miss Devine in the school where principal tells him to not go to students' home unannounced. Peter's parents complained about you. She replies that she was just worried about Peter, and he found his mother quite strange and hiding something. Now principal explains the incident of a missing kid in their neighborhood. He tells her that could be the reason they are being overprotective of their child. Devine then also cross-checks this incident on internet Now she was marking test sheets of the students, so she finds it a good excuse to go to Peter's home to hand him the test. Devine didn't knew that Peter was locked in the basement now. Mark and Carol starts talking to her. Mark was acting really strange and creepy. He had a hammer in his hand and he was injured, and he tells her that he was injured while repairing something. Now Devine tells Carol, I was just worried about Peter. That's why I visited you. Now Carol gets aggressive and asks her, how can she get suspicious of his parents? Now Mark tells Devine to go. Mark had already removed Peter's name from school. This whole incident made Mark and Carol feel really suspicious. Later that night, Carol made cupcakes for Peter, and she feeds him and sends him to his room for sleeping now. Peter tries to talk to that voice again. Now she tells her that she was worried about him and he should stay safe from his parents. They are not as good as they look. Now she reveals that she's Peter's sister and she was waiting for Peter to grow up. Now Peter removes a patched hole from the wall. Listening to all these claims, Peter gets nervous and wants her to reveal herself. She replies that he will get scared of her because she was trapped here for a long time and doesn't look pretty, but he still insists her, and she looks at him. But Peter gets scared now. She tells Peter that their parents and evil, and they looked her there, and she tells Peter to stay safe from them. They can do the same thing to him. Now he starts getting nightmares of his parents, but Carol tries to calm her. Now he was laying in his room, but she tells him that she is trapped in this place, and she somehow manages to come close to his room to talk to him, and she awares him that as soon as your parents are done with you, they will kill you anyways. He replies to her saying they can't do this. They will never kill anyone, but she replies they already did kill someone. He can check it by digging in the garden. Peter digs in the garden the next day, finds a skeleton. He gets emotional. She also reveals that it was the skeleton of the neighborhood's missing girl. She came here on the Halloween night and his parents killed her because she asked for help from her. Now we understand about the incident of that night. Peter now calls Miss Devine for help, but Carol interferes and stops him. Now she gets furious and get to know about the wall hole, and she realizes that Peter had already talked to that girl. Now she asks Peter, what did she told you? Now whatever bad happens, you will be responsible. She leaves saying this. Now strange thing is, if Mark and Carol had trapped that girl inside that wall, then why are they getting scared like that night? She tells Mark about the whole incident. She tells Peter that she had listened to his parents' conversation and they are trying to kill you. Now you have to do something now. Peter, Mark, and Carol were having dinner, but Mark feels something off. He notices a different taste in the soup, and he notices that Peter was not eating the soup. Now he confronts Peter, and Peter replies that, why did you hurt my sister? Now Mark realizes the whole incident. He starts vomiting blood because Peter had put rat poison inside the food because she told him so. Now Carol grabs a knife and starts to get close to Peter, but due to poison she gets killed. But the shocking fact is that she grabbed the knife to kill that girl and not Peter, as Peter now starts to free her from the wall by removing that wall clock. Now Peter opens that secret door. The girl who was talking with cute voice and innocence now starts talking in her true form like a monster and was also looking like a monster. Now Peter went back to his room to hide. Coincidentally, we can see Brian with his friends at his home who came to take a revenge of that school incident. But a monster was already free in the house, and she cleverly tricks all three of them and kills them mercilessly. She cuts open their bodies, decapitates them. Peter was still hiding in his room. She was able to climb on walls and roof like a spider, and her nails were so sharp she can even cut bones now. Peter and the monster left alone. Here, the scene shifts to Miss Devine. We can see her outside. She came to save him. Now we can see Peter hiding under the bed, and the monster was on top of the bed. Here she tells him about her story. She explains that she was the first child of Mark and Carol, but was born deformed. Her body was like a monster, and she's aggressive too, so she can kill people. That's why they made that pit in the basement, to hide her there. The teddy bear in the pit was also hers. She reveals that she waited years, making herself strong and planning how she will manipulate Peter into believing that she is innocent, and it worked out. This deformed child had killer instincts from the beginning. We get to know that she is not a demon entity or a soul, but a normal human with monster body and killer mentality. Now that monster locks Peter in that secret room to make him feel how she felt all that long. Now Miss tries to get inside the house, and Peter starts calling her and asking for help. She tries to rip open the wall and bring Peter out. That monster captured them and locks Peter in the pit. Now Peter grabs her hair and tries to come up, and with the help of Miss Devine, he was able to come up and lock her in the pit. In this scene, we can figure out that she hated Peter because he was a normal kid and she was deformed. That's why. Their parents loved him more. She was his sister, but despises him because her fair shares was given to Peter. And that was the reason Peter's parents kept worrying about Peter, because they knew that she could be dangerous for Peter. They have hidden the fact for so long that a girl was buried in their garden because probably that monster killed her. That's why even in dying moments, Carol told Peter to not let her come out because she wanted to kill Peter. Now she reveals that she will never leave Peter, ever. She will come for him now. Miss Devine took Peter in custody and the movie ends.